Hey, Liam Ward here at LearnTheHarmonica.com. Today we're looking at New York, New York by Frank Sinatra. If you enjoyed today's lesson, please click like, share with your friends and subscribe to my channel for free harmonica lessons every single week. Today's lesson is part of my crowdfunding and this one is for my old friend Paddy. Back when we were students together, Paddy got me in on the college big band where I was completely out of my depth playing a stupid little harmonica with loads of people who were very talented on proper instruments. Anyway, one of the songs we looked at was New York, New York, so this one is for you today, Paddy. So what we're going to look at in today's lesson is the little lick that starts off the song, the brass riff that goes over and over, really catchy thing that goes like this. And it goes over and over like that and kind of repeats throughout the song as well. And the reason I want to look at that, and only that, with this lesson today, is that just one simple little thing like that only contains 3 different notes in it can be used in a lot of different ways by adding textures, different techniques, choosing to play it in different octaves, choosing different harmonicas to play it on. And that can give you a lot more variety than you might think that you have just with one little phrase. So I want to give you the chance to play that phrase simply and then give you some different options for what to do with it. And I also thought it was kind of something suitable to do because when I was first playing this song with the big band back when I was a student, one of the things I would do was listen to the brass players, listen to the guys playing those instruments and try and imitate and use what they were playing. It's a really good thing to take those horn lines and try and learn them on harmonica. I did another lesson recently on a brass style riff, so do check out that video as well. I'm going to be using a D harmonica today, but I've also got a low D here, so if you've got a low D, grab that as well. Don't worry if you haven't, we're going to start on the D harmonica. Now, the easiest place to play this riff would be to play it around holes 6 and 7. Okay, so you'd have, which is just 7 blow twice, 7 draw, 7 blow, 6 draw. So if I slow that down, 3, 4. Now, that's fine. That works great. It's a little bit high on a D harmonica, so one option would be to get your low D harmonica and play the exact same thing and it'll give you an octave down. Okay, but if you don't have a low D, another option would be to play it an octave below on your normal D harmonica. This will involve a bend. Okay, so that would be 4 blow twice, and then 3 draw, 4 blow again, and then 3 draw, full step bend. Okay, so obviously the problem with that is having to play the bend. Obviously, if you don't have that technique, it isn't going to sound right. But even if you can play the bend, getting it to sound smooth is difficult. So that's obviously an advantage to having the low D harmonica. You can then play it in that higher octave or in the octave you want to play it in, but without having to bend a note. So you've got those different options there. But more important than, well, perhaps more important than where you're going to play it is the textures you might choose to use. So one of the good things about playing it around 6 and 7 is that you could bend that 6th draw, okay? So you might choose to just do a little, what I'd call a scoop on the 6th draw. So you start with a little bit of a bend on the 6th and then release that, and it kind of has that movement of the note. So 7 blow won't really bend, it'll bend kind of a quarter tone, which is, we're not really going to use it. The 7 draw doesn't really bend either, but the 6 draw will give you that note. Now, you don't hold that note for very long, so it's not going to be a big, bluesy, long-held bend, but you could put that in just a little bit, just as a little bit of a texture. Something else that I did just then, which I didn't even sort of plan to do, it's just out of habit because I do it a lot, is I slapped some of those notes. So if you're tongue blocking, one of the things you can do is take that, you could do it with the 7 blow, with the 7 draw, with the 6 draw, do it with all of them, and start with your tongue off and play the kind of chord, if you like, the multiple notes, and then put your tongue on as you're still breathing that note, that chord, and narrow it down to a single note. So you put your tongue in your normal tongue block position and get like that, except that was a 6 blow. There you go, that's 7. So if I do that on each note, then it starts to sound a bit fuller. If you do that an octave down, on your low D, it sounds really big and full, and I think those chords kind of ring out nicely. That kind of vamping backing sound sounds nice in that octave. Of course, you could play it in the lower octave on your D, that's the bit with the bend, and still slap those notes. Or even, and I'm risking sort of embarrassing myself here by trying to bend this low D, but you could play it in the lower octave on the low D as well. So you've got those different options as well. Of course, you could also play octaves, so octave splits. So it might be that you think the single notes sound too thin, but you don't want to slap the notes. Perhaps you'd want to just play the octaves. So you could actually combine the two tabs that we've discussed, the higher octave and the lower octave, put them together. So you could play the 4 blow and the 7 blow at the same time. That's assuming that you've got an octave technique. So you're familiar with kind of putting your tongue down the middle and playing a note out of either side. So that's the 4 and the 7. So you could like that, and that obviously gives you a bigger sound again. All of these options will mean that you don't have to play the same thing exactly the same way over and over and over, which makes it more interesting for you, but also for the listener. More importantly, they're going to get some variety in what they're hearing, so that you're not just having those single notes in the same octave played the exact same way. You might have noticed when I played those as an octave just now that I didn't play the last note as an octave. So if you compare the two tabs for the higher part and the lower part, you'll obviously notice that you've got a 6 draw for the last note of the higher part, and then a 3 draw bend for the last note of the lower part. It's not possible to play those as an octave, or at least it's very, 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 very difficult. You'd have to bend the note, the 3 draw, not bend the 6 draw, and get them to play the same time, which I suppose in theory is possible, and there's probably someone out there who can do it. And if you can, post your video in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But let's assume you're not Superman, and so what we're going to do is just play that 6 draw on its own. So you're going to play 4 and 7 blow, together, and then you're going to play 3 and 7 draw together. That's the octave. There are 2 octaves. That's a bit out of tune. That's why you got that waving sound. So they're okay with octaves. The 6 draw won't do it. If I played the 3 draw and the 6 draw without bending anything, it's horrible. Sounds horrible. So I'll just play the 6 draw on its own. I'm likely to, and I was doing it then without thinking, slap that sixth drawer. Just because I'm moving my tongue, it kind of makes sense to, as I'm moving it, to find my space again, slap that note, and it's a nice texture as well, and means it isn't too thin compared with the octaves that you've just played. So one last thing to consider in today's lesson, and that's to actually add notes or take notes away from what you're playing. Again, just for the sake of variety and keeping the listener's interest. So you might want to add a note at the end of this phrase. So I'm adding a 6 blow. If you're doing that in the lower octave, that'd be a 3 blow. And that just, again, kind of links the end of the phrase with the start of the next time you play it. You wouldn't want to do it every time, but you might want to choose some variety at different points and add that in. So, you know, just pick and choose when you want to do it. And it's actually really good practice to do that, move it in and out of the phrase, because you're having to keep on your toes as you're playing, so you're not just settling into a secure kind of easy place. You're actually sort of thinking about what you're doing as you do it. So if you combine all of those different things, you can take the single note version, the high octave and low octave versions of that, adding some octave splits into your playing, slaps into your playing, and actually adding and removing the notes, you've got a lot of stuff to think about with such a really, really basic phrase. And that's really the gist of what I wanted to give you today. I want you to be inspired, hopefully, to try out some different textures in your playing. It's something that the harmonica excels at. This instrument is limited in very many ways, but somewhere we can actually be better than every other instrument, possibly, is by adding textures to our playing. Make it feel real, make it feel emotional, and get your listeners to really connect with your playing. These things I'm talking about today are all going to help you to do that. So I hope you go away and practice this phrase, but also other phrases, by using these different textures to add to your playing that little bit more. Start spreading the news. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you to Paddy for requesting it. Good luck with your playing. I hope these textures give you some inspiration to add something to your playing. Before you go, remember to click like, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for free harmonica lessons every single week. Do give me your comments and your feedback in the comments beneath the video. You can also email contact@LearnTheHarmonica.com, and you can find me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Just search for LearnTheHarmonica.com on those platforms. We've got a great community of harmonica players of all levels, from absolute beginner to professional, so do come along and try and pick up some tips from other players as well. I'm going to be back very soon with another harmonica lesson. Until then, enjoy your practice, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.